Hello my friends and welcome to Book-O-Ween day 5? Is it day 5? Oh my god, it's day 5. I literally just lost count. I don't know what happened but couldn't think of what day it was. It is Book-O-Ween day 5. I hope you guys are excited to talk about today's book because I know I am uber excited to talk about today's book. Today we are talking about Clown in a Cornfield by Cesare. I hope that's how you say his name. Sometimes I swear I look at authors' names and I have no idea if I'm pronouncing them correctly, but I did try to pronounce it like other people were pronouncing it, so I hope that is correct. But we are talking about Clown in a Cornfield today, and I was so excited to finally read this book. I have been waiting and waiting, but I decided Book-O-Ween might be a fun time to include it, so finally we can talk about this. I'm so excited. But yes, let's talk about the cover. I think the cover is really, really cool. It's your typical red and black, but there is something eerie about the cover. I don't know. I think it's like the background, you can see just like the barn, and it's creepy. And then you have the clown face like made out of the corn. I just think that's really creepy. I don't know. I really like this cover. There's something about it. It's very eerie, but it matches the story really well, which I very much appreciate because sometimes book covers don't match the actual book. But before we get into this, I want to let you guys know that this is a YA horror. And before you judge it too quickly, I would like you to stay for the rest of my video because your opinion might change after I tell you some things. So, let's get into a plot synopsis. Quinn Maybrook and her father are hoping for a fresh start. They move from Philadelphia to Kettle Springs, which is practically in the middle of nowhere. Quinn's dad got a job as the doctor of this little podunk town, which sped the process up quite quickly and left Quinn with no real choice but to go. Even so, Quinn takes it in stride, and she's hoping that this fresh start will let her blend in and just kind of stick to the background of this town since no one knows her and no one knows her story. One mysterious thing Quinn notices when they finally get to the new house is that she can see the abandoned corn syrup factory from her bedroom window, and there is a clown for a mascot. One thing about the town stands out loud and clear for sure is that the adults are set in their ways and are very set on the idea of making Kettle Springs great again. The teens feel very unheard and unseen, especially when some of them make YouTube videos dealing with pranks, and they have this idea of leaving Kettle Springs behind one day. As you can tell, the two halves making Kettle Springs could not be more different from each other. Then Quinn ends up befriending some of the troublemakers at school who decide to pull a prank at the Founders Day parade. Unfortunately, that prank goes horribly wrong, and that prank is just the tip of the iceberg. The next night, while all the teens are partying and doing normal teen things, the clown mascot Friendo that I mentioned previously decides to come out and play with the intent to clean out the teens who are keeping Kettle Springs from being great. Okay, so that's the plot synopsis. Let's dive right in to my thoughts. So, if you believe that YA horror can't be gory and fun and scary, please read this book. Please read this book because it'll take those thoughts right out of your head. I mean right out of your head. This book is not the typical YA horror. I literally just reviewed a YA horror a few weeks ago. It was called Campfire something or other. What was it called? What was it called? Yes, it was called Campfire, right here. I have a review on it. You can go check it out if you want. This book is the epitome of YA horror. So if that's what you think about when you think of YA horror, Campfire is definitely in that realm. Clown in a Cornfield is not. It's not. It's nothing like I've ever read from YA horror before. It completely I didn't even realize I was reading YA horror, honestly. It didn't feel like it in the slightest, which I will get to later, but it just didn't feel like it. So honestly, if you're unsure about YA horror, please try this book, because it's honestly not what you expect. It's really, really not. So a little fun fact about me, I love anything in the horror genre that has to do with clowns, which is a little bit ironic because I absolutely hate clowns. Clowns are terrifying and I hate them and they freak me out, and I've never liked clowns, probably because I was watching It by Stephen King way too young and that traumatized me, but I just hate clowns. They freak me out, but because of that, I make it my mission to read anything with clowns in it or watch anything. But I do that because I think it'll scare me more because I'm looking to be scared. When I read or watch horror, I'm looking to be scared because it takes a lot to scare me nowadays. So I will purposefully watch or read things that have things that I dislike in them to scare me. That's how I feel about clowns, and that is why I like reading clown horror, because clowns freak me out. And this book did not help that fact. Let me tell you, still hate clowns, still hate them, but that really helped this book because I was freaked out pretty much the entire time. So this is such a fun slasher. It has that retro old school vibe, but with such a modern twist to it that it kept it fresh, it kept it new, it kept it different, but it still has that classic slasher feel that I oh so love. You know I love slashers. I talk about it all the time. Slashers are my favorite subgenre in horror. So when a good slasher comes out, I'm so excited. And this had everything I want from a slasher, but so modern. I mean, as you can tell from the plot description, I'm sure you can pinpoint some things that indicate the modern qualities that it brings, but it felt relatable and also scary. The first 50 pages or so, give or take a few pages, I'm not really sure when it started, but the first 50-ish are very much a slow burn. It's kind of introducing you to Quinn, introducing you to Kettle Springs, giving you a feel for everything, just kind of laying everything out, and it makes you feel comfortable and almost at ease, and then all of a sudden, surprise. You're not expecting it, you're waiting for it, but also you're comfortable. You're set, you feel secure, you feel at ease, you know kind of what's going on. It's mysterious, but you don't feel like you're in any danger until one point, and then it's complete chaos. Just chaos. It takes you by total surprise, and once it starts, it just bulldozes you. It just bulldozes you. You are hit by action after action after action, scare after scare after scare, intense after intense after intense. Like, it's just non-stop. From that point to the entire end, non-stop. Non-stop. Literally, before you can even blink or even think about what's happening, you're along for the ride. It's just there. It's kind of like a roller coaster, okay? I hate roller coasters. I don't think I've ever been on more than like 2 in my entire life because they terrify me. But you know how when a roller coaster starts, you know, it's that slow do 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 do. You get to this point, right? You get to this point, and then whoosh, yeah? That's this book. The first like 50 pages are do 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 do. You hit a point, zoom. Then you don't even know what's happening. That's what happens. I know, what a great analogy I just came up with. That was so clever. It just came off the top of my head. I didn't even plan that analogy. I just thought of it. That was really good, actually. I actually really enjoyed Quinn as the main character. She was tough. She had an edge to her. She turned out to be a good fighter. I don't know. She just I had doubts about her in the beginning. I had doubts because I started reading from her perspective and I was kind of like, you know, maybe. But then when the action started, I realized I really liked her. I don't know, she pulled through for me. There's just something about her. I don't know, I can't really explain it without giving details away, which I'm not going to do because you need to read this book. But at first I was just a little hesitant about her. I didn't quite know what she was about or what she was going to be like when the action started, but she pleasantly surprised me because I feel like she pulled through and was a character that I wanted to root for the entire time, and I wanted her to come out alive. I actually enjoyed most of the characters. A lot of them were good and I did like them. There were some that I didn't like. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to tell you anything about them. I'm not going to go into depth because that would be telling you way too much about this book, and it's not going to happen on my watch. You need to read it for yourself, okay? But there are a few characters that I wasn't upset for them to get injured. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, so I mentioned this is a YA horror. Now, I know a lot of people's qualms with YA is the writing style. It feels like adults playing children. It feels like an adult trying to write from a teen's perspective, but poorly. It feels like they are writing in a childlike manner, or from my perspective, it feels like the author doesn't know how teenagers talk. I've had that problem a lot. They sound weird. Like, I know I'm 25, but I remember being a teenager. I remember how I spoke, and it wasn't quite like how some authors make it out to be. And it always worries me with YA horror because I'm always worried that it's going to sound odd or off or sound like someone's playing dress up, but playing as a teen. And I found that I really enjoyed this writing style because it didn't feel like that. The dialogue between the teenagers or between the teenagers and the adults felt more realistic. I didn't even really notice that I was reading from a teenager perspective. It wasn't really my first thought while I was reading, which is a good thing because usually that's too apparent in YA. But for this, it just, I don't know, you didn't really remember, you were just reading and it was just good. It didn't really matter how old the characters were or the ages or anything like that. It just mattered the characters versus the other characters, like how the good and the bad were fighting. It wasn't really the age that stuck out. It was more just the plot, which I think is a good thing because I wasn't aware of the age. I wasn't aware that the characters I was reading were younger than me because it wasn't apparent to me. I wasn't paying attention to that, which I think is a very, very, very good thing, which I really enjoyed because it didn't bother me in the slightest. It didn't bother me that I was 25 reading a teenager's perspective. Like I said, this is gory and bloody, and it had that slasher goodness that I love, that violence. I know that sounds weird, but if you read slashers or watch slashers, you know what I'm talking about. That bloody, violent kill scenes, you know, those. It had that, so it kept that feeling of watching a classic slasher that I loved so much, but the gore wasn't the main focus of everything, which is good because I hate when books rely on gore too much and the plot falters or takes a back seat. I hate that because I don't think a book or a movie should rely on gore. I think the plot should always be the main attraction because that's what's going to reel me in. So I was happy to see that it did contain gore and blood and violence, but it wasn't the main centerpiece. It wasn't taking away from the plot, it was enhancing and adding to it, which made me so happy. It made me so, so, so happy. The ending was awesome. I'm not gonna say too much about it because honestly, I don't want to give anything away. It's just a really, really good ending that felt classic. I know I keep saying that. It felt classic, but that's what this book feels like. It feels like a classic with a modern twist, which is how the ending felt like. So I'm not going to say too much about it. It was a really good ending. I enjoyed it a lot. Good ending. If you are a fan of a good slasher, I highly recommend checking out this book. Don't let the YA fool you. Don't let it fool you because it's honestly not like any YA book I've ever read. It's really not. It's really good. This is what I wish all YA horror was like. Honestly, this is the perfect idea of what I would like from YA horror. Honestly, don't let it deter you. Please, if you feel like you want to read this, please check it out because I enjoyed it so much, and I think if you like a good slasher, you'll probably enjoy this as well. This might be, this is a big statement, but this might be in my top 10 for this year. This might be a top 10 book for me. It was really, really good. I was sad to have finished it. It made me really sad that it was over and I didn't have more to keep reading. I was devastated that I'd finished it so fast. I wanted it to keep going because I just wasn't I was just enjoying it so much. So this might be in my top 10 for this year. So if you can't tell, I'm giving it 5 ghosts out of 5. It was chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. So good. So good. I can't recommend it more than I am currently sitting here telling you to read it. Read it, please. It's so good. Honestly, even if you're scared of clowns, I feel like you should still read it. I know that's kind of mean because you're probably terrified of clowns, but honestly, give it a try. Give it a try. It's really, really good. So that's going to do it for my review of Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesare. Oh my god, I love it so much. I need to check out more of Adam's work. This was phenomenal, and if his other stuff is like this, then I have been missing out. So, yeah, it's really good. I don't know what else to say. That's all I can say. It was really good. This is the end of Book-O-Ween Day 5. I almost messed up the date again. Can't remember. It's lost in my head. I hope you guys are enjoying this week so far. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you guys are as well. And yeah, feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching me talk and rave about Clown in a Cornfield. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see the end and the rest of Book-O-Ween, and if you want to see more of my face after Book-O-Ween is over, that would be very nice and I would appreciate it a lot. And with that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. I almost said on Monday. What day is it? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Book-O-Ween Day 6. Okay, bye!